Oshnick.
And I'm Jacob Feldman, and this is the Olympic Momentum Sports Business Podcast, the Sporticast.
Now, Flint Lane, I like to judge my normal co-host, Eben Novi-Williams, on his open. Now, he is what is he, fishing in Canada? One of those auto replies where he says, I have no email, I will not be checking, I'm off the grid kind of deal. He likes that. Jacob, I like it. You didn't give it away. You teased it. Olympic momentum could be anything. So, Flint Lane, Major League Table Tennis CEO and founder, please give Jacob Feldman a grade for his open.
I'm going to say a B plus.
Okay. Oh, I love a B plus.
I don't know Jacob that well. I want to leave room for improvement, but
of course.
I also, since I don't know you well, I don't want to be too harsh.
That's all right. I can take it. But I appreciate it. B plus. Yeah. So Flint, we're excited to have you on. Table tennis is a sport a lot of people are familiar with. I think it's one of the most popular sports to play in America, around the world, and I think we're starting to see a sense of the competitive side as well with your help and with the Olympics help, as I mentioned off the top. So we're going to get into that. Scott, I'm curious, how much Olympic table tennis did you take in earlier this month?
Well, although I am of advanced age, Flint, I consumed the Olympics much like my 15-year-old. I saw, and this was sport agnostic. Most of it was highlights. Most of it was clips. Most of it was on TikTok or whatever, because I watched it with my son. So I did see, though, a good amount of table tennis coming my way, especially when it involved the athletes from some of the other teams. So that is where I came in. Do we still have Flint, or would he drop him there?
I'm still here. I'm having some dropping on my sound, so I turned my camera off. Do you need my camera on?
Well, let's try it. If it gives you another problem, let us know. We'll shut it off. Because every now and then we do like to use a clip if we can.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just kind of take it from the middle there.
Sure.
So Jacob, I like I said, I kind of watched it with my wife. Was straight up NBC, or in the NBC family. I'm like, I can't. I'm not sitting there and I'm watching the whole thing. So I was very teenager of this. I watched TikTok and whatever, but I sure did see a whole lot of table tennis coming my way via the highlights. How about you?
Not too different, and really from the jump, right, Flint? I mean, table tennis, before it even got started, was getting a lot of pop in the opening ceremony. There was that video of Anthony Edwards challenging some of the players to at least win a point, if not a game, and they obviously laughed that off. But on from there, America made history in table tennis, the first male to reach the final 16 in that competition. I was actually looking it up. One of the few sports America has not won a medal in, discounting some of the sports that have joined, in the last 4 or 8 years. I think there's only 5 of them, and table tennis is one. Flint, do you think we can get to a point where we're medaling? Where do you see table tennis in the U.S. going?
Yeah, so great question. Those 3 women athletes who were with Anthony Edwards are all in Major League Table Tennis. One of them, Li Jiang, was an MLTT ambassador, and in fact, was tasked with scoring some good content, and man, did she succeed. But getting to your base question, the problem with table tennis in America is not that it's not popular, it's that kids can't dream of being a professional athlete in Major League Table Tennis unless they want to go live in another country, because there's never been a pro league. Imagine how popular basketball would be if kids could not dream about being LeBron James or Steph Curry. And the same problem happens in table tennis. And that's one of the reasons why we started a pro league, so kids could aspire to be a professional athlete.
Now, Jacob, I know Eben can crawl in my brain because we've been hosting this show for a number of years. Like, I would have started on a macro level. Flint, is ping pong okay? Is it ping pong? Is it table tennis? What's the difference? Which do you prefer?
So anybody who actually gives you a hard time for picking one versus the other needs to get over themselves.
Good, I
appreciate
appreciate that.
Talking about either one. Now, technically, people think of ping pong as the trademark name, and table tennis is the sport. Some people think of it as ping pong is the basement sport, and table tennis is what the pros do. I don't agree with that. You could feel free to use them interchangeably. In China, they dominate this sport. They call it ping pong there, so if it's good enough for China, it's good enough for us.
I love that you sort of took up the sport when you were young. You were aficionado, and your wife said, for the heck of it, I'm going to get him some lessons against a professional, a real player, David Zhuang. And we saw how well you did. So I do find it interesting that for whatever reason, that sort of your casual player really thinks they can compete against the best. Why is that?
Yeah, in fact, our tagline for Major League Table Tennis is "Think you're good?" with a question mark, because everybody thinks they're good. It happened to me about 2 weeks ago. I was at a party, and this lady was talking about how she beat all her lacrosse players at table tennis, and that she was good. And like, I'm reasonably good. I'm not Olympic good. I'm not professional good, and I beat her with my cell phone. Like, and she thought she was good. So I think the problem is we don't have general exposure to what really good is, right? We don't see it on TV every weekend. We see some highlights, but you look at somebody like Anthony Edwards, he reasonably thinks he can score against one of these professional athletes. I would flip it on him. Do you think one of those professional women athletes could score a basket against him in basketball? Well, there is your answer to his question. There's no way he's scoring against that.
It's fascinating because, like you said, everybody has played this, and even a lot of professional athletes. I have spent some time, and Scott has too, in NBA locker rooms, NFL locker rooms. A lot of them have a table tennis table, a ping pong table. A lot of them, it's always a cliche that when things go bad, the coach pulls the table tennis table out of the locker room to get them to focus. So I'm curious, have you dialogued with other athletes? Were you surprised to see that moment? Do you see a potential to bring in some other athletes as a way to continue to grow the sport, grow your league?
Yeah, it's funny. I think table tennis might be the only sport that serves as a punishment for the athletes. If you don't win, you don't get your table tennis.
Exactly.
What else do they get punished about? Maybe going out to bars and things like that. But yeah, we already have some crossover appeal. Manu Ginobili, the basketball player, is an investor in one of our teams, the Florida Crocs. We've had significant interest from other athletes in participating in our league. One of the best table tennis players, Dima Ovcharov from Germany. He's a co-owner in the Princeton Revolution. And I think you'll only see that expand. If you see what the athletes are doing in terms of investing in other sports, whether it's pickleball or volleyball or WNBA or the women's soccer league, you're going to see a lot of crossover athletes looking to diversify their portfolio. And why not one of the more popular pro sports in the world?
All right, Flint, give me some specifics. Come on, I know you want to get some publicity out there. Who's looking at this? And walk me through the economics. If you give me a quick elevator pitch, sort of what are the economics behind investing in a team?
Yeah, so table tennis is the 6th most popular sport on the planet, more popular than baseball, football, basketball, and you can Google it. Of course, I picked the stats that support my argument, and I've done that already. So from a league perspective, my background is in the software space. I didn't know much about professional sports. I ran a software company for 20 years, sold it to a private equity firm, and thought I was going to retire. I was in my late 50s, and after 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to retire. So I'd always played table tennis, and I did a bunch of market research about what makes a successful pro sport. And it needs to be understandable, right? So most Americans understand table tennis. A lot of people played it in their basement. It needs to have fan appeal. If you saw Anthony Edwards watching in the Olympics, that's fan appeal. He's jumping up and out of his seat. He had no idea what to expect. And our fans that come to our events are like just gaga about it. They're like, oh my God, I never knew. So all of us who did league, which is what most modern leagues are, which means the league controls everything. We hire the players, we hire the coaches, we get the venues, we sell the tickets, yada, yada, yada. So we have sold 7 of our 8 teams to individuals and groups who wanted to have a piece of Major League Table Tennis and the growth potential. And we're only 1 year in. No other sports league has grown this fast. Now, we've got a lot to still do because we just started in March of last year, but the future is so bright in terms of table tennis in America.
And is team number 8 for sale if somebody watched the Olympics and wants to get involved?
Yeah, we're probably not going to sell it now. We're going to sell 4 teams for season 3, which will begin at the end of this year. So if people are interested, certainly they can reach out to us. But right now we are focused on launching season 2, which begins in September.
Yeah, but again, walk me through that though. What does it cost? Ballpark? What's the team go for? How many owners? We're in a world of limited partnerships these days. What kind of structure do you like? We see the NFL welcoming private equity. What does Major League Table Tennis want Apollo and CVC and Sixth Street at the table? Just best you can. Just walk me through the economics of how the league and teams work.
Yeah, so we are not raising capital from private equity or VC at this point. We are self-funded. I did quite well in my last business and have the capability to fund this indefinitely. That doesn't mean I want to fund it completely by myself. We are not disclosing what it costs to buy a team. That number has been increasing over time, but it is a reasonable amount compared to other sports, and I expect that price tag to go up over time. But the economics for Major League Table Tennis are like many other pro sports. It's selling tickets, selling sponsorships, distribution, sports betting. I didn't know this going in, but table tennis is wildly popular for sports betting. So we've seen a lot of interest from the normal people who are involved in sports betting. So it's got all the attributes of a successful pro sport. So we had no problem. We sold those 7 teams before we had our first match. So it was pretty easy to sell those first teams, and I'm sure we'll have no problem selling the next 5.
Something I learned when I first started covering the world of sports betting and data. The reason some of these things are popular is that they're played in different time zones. And the holy grail for sports betting houses is live programming. So if they're playing in Asia, if they're playing across the globe, that is the holy grail, because you always have a live match somewhere at some time, which is why tennis, also junior tennis, is wildly popular in the betting markets, because there's always a match in Kuala Lumpur or somewhere going on. I mean, this was a real eye-opener for me. But how do you utilize the Steph Curry picture was very big. Like, is there a way now? How do we continue that momentum? Can you get Steph Curry to figure out? I bet he's going to be an investor, by the way, Jacob. But how do you get Steph Curry? Can you put on a match during halftime of an NBA game as entertainment? There's Red Panda. Well, let's put some of the best Major League Table Tennis players at halftime. Is that what we're looking at, a way to continue this momentum? I'm just curious for the ideas that you guys are shooting for.
Yeah, so everything's on the table. I think having a match at halftime, our matches generally run 2 hours, is not a good look. We recently were on ESPN with a 1-hour showcase, so we can package this into different time units, but we are in a PR battle. One of the reasons why I'm on your popular show now is so that we can spread the word about what we're doing with Major League Table Tennis. But when we go to cities, we hire local PR talent. We are on all the local news stations. We are doing things at boys and girls clubs, at schools. So we're doing everything we can to raise awareness. We're doing stuff in the community. We're doing stuff on the national level. But, a lot of people are fighting for the minds of the sports fans out there, and we are in that fight as well. But because table tennis has such recognition, we think there's a great opportunity for us to succeed there.
I love it. Everything on the table. I think that should be your slogan on the pitch deck. But I am curious, because it's really interesting, that kind of dual strategy of being on the ground in these local communities and then also looking for these viral moments on TikTok or Instagram of really reaching a global audience. Did I understand you correctly that you sent some professional players to the Olympics with the assignments of creating content? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so 11 of our athletes from Major League Table Tennis qualified for the Olympics. So these are people competing for all different countries. We have 21 different countries represented in Major League Table Tennis, everything from Italy to Japan to Germany to Poland. You name it, we probably have some athletes who either signed up for the draft or are in our league. So as part of our social media campaign, so we had over 1 million interactions on social media in just year 1. We said, hey, let's really emphasize this. And we took 4 of the athletes and said, hey, you're going to be the MLTT ambassador. And the NBC was very open about social media coverage. There were certain restrictions. You couldn't be in the training room. You couldn't be at the drug testing. But they wanted their athletes on social media, as did we. So we asked some of these athletes, just record, what's going on, go meet some other people. And that led to some of those great viral moments.
We are chatting with Flint Lane, Major League Table Tennis CEO and founder. And Flint, I got to tell you, I covered the Beijing Olympics, not the most recent one, the one before that. That's how old I am. I don't remember what year it was. But, one thing I learned, and I was absolutely fascinated, was the tent outside the venue where the players put their paddles together. I mean, all the equipment, hair dryers, the glues, the scissors cutting it. I just thought this was a part of the game that, if it didn't reach me, that lots of folks did not know. How much about the sport in preparation, in training, how much don't people know? Clearly they know You know, when you see like the actual game play, I'm not even sure they even get the specifics of that. But how much is of the community of the whole sport ecosystem don't people know?
So there's about 16 million people who play table tennis on some regular basis in the US on an annual basis. Now, that is a very small fraction of the overall population. So if your question is about the 16 million, they know a lot of that. The rest do not. Like, people ask me, how much does your paddle cost? And I'm like, well, you can't really answer that question. You don't buy a paddle. You buy a wood piece called a blade, and then you buy different rubber surfaces with different foam thicknesses depending on what you want on your backhand.
But this is what I'm
By that
talking
point, they've
about,
already
Flint.
tuned me
People
out,
don't.
so I
People
might
have no idea. People don't know this. People have no idea this is. What's the difference between thin rubber, thicker rubber? What's the difference, and what are you trying to achieve as a player?
So speed, control, spin, things like dwell time. But I think all sports have that. We're more aware of it. Like, you've watched tennis, they show up with like 8 rackets, right? They don't just buy a tennis racket. You know, they buy special string, they have special tension. And I don't know anything about that because I'm not a tennis player. But like every sport has those things. Table tennis has our things as well. Like, I have my own table tennis sneakers. Yes, there are sneakers designed just for table tennis. So, you know, if you look at any sport, I imagine you'll see those kinds of things. And as we grow the popularity of table tennis in America, I think more and more people will understand that. Yeah, the games are no longer to 21; they're now to 11. You know, it used to be 21 when we were kids, but now we serve twice and receive twice. So a lot of those things will become more obvious as more coverage of table tennis happens in America.
Jacob, you read about all the kids in TikTok. That sounds about right. Change the rules to make it shorter. That sounds
course,
like exactly where we're going these days.
And I think, you know, it's no surprise. I'm sure Flint says this all the time. This is a action-packed, quick sport you can view in a vertical format. I mean, there's a lot of benefits there when you're talking about this next generation of viewership. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know the TikTok algorithm's got me figured out. It shows me a lot of table tennis, but I'm surprised how often I hear from friends who are not table tennis people how much table tennis they get on their TikTok as well. So clearly it's resonating with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious about that. When you're talking about growing the sport, how much are you looking at international markets? For instance, you know, every 4 years, I'm surprised. Oh, right, Sweden loves table tennis. It comes out of nowhere, and then there they are in these medal rounds of these competitions. Have you looked at what other countries have done to make this a popular national sport, or do you say, hey, America is a whole different beast. We have to create our own formula here?
So I'll say yes and no to that. So yeah, there are table tennis leagues in lots of other countries. So there's a Swedish league, there is a French pro league, there is a Chinese super league, and they all run a little differently. India's probably got the closest league. It's actually going on for 3 weeks this summer called Ultimate Table Tennis, and it is a team-based format, and it is really exciting for the fans. Frankly, our model is more on the NBA and the popular sports in America. So we've had a combine like the NFL does. We have a draft. We have a lottery. You know, we're doing all of these things. We have a Final Four for the playoffs. So I would rather steal ideas from successful American sports than try to crib some ideas from sort of niche sports in Europe.
Is there going to be a Ryder Cup of table tennis? Is there a way to create more international competition? Because that's what seems to drive a lot of interest in some of these sports that people may not follow on a weekly basis.
I don't know if I agree with that. So I would argue that the Ryder Cup is popular. Yes, we love to root for the Americans, but golf is already pretty popular. The Ryder Cup is another example of that. I think having lots of international athletes in the American League, Major League Table Tennis, is driving interest, much like having international athletes in the NBA is driving significant interest. So our equivalent of Ryder Cup is the Olympics, you know, where countries compete against other countries. Do we need another one? I'm not sure we need another one right now. We've got a lot of things we got to figure out first here in the U.S.
Are you already thinking about 2028, how to take advantage of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be in LA, obviously. There is going to be, at that point, we'll have 4.5 years under our belt. So it's going to be dramatic, the difference between Major League Table Tennis now and then. Much like the Olympics, we're spending a lot of time talking about how many NBA athletes were in the Olympics. I expect the coverage to be talking about all of the MLTT players, which will be more than 50% of the athletes at those Olympics. And yeah, we are going to have a full coverage. I'm hoping our athletes start winning medals by then.
How are you recruiting players from overseas to come play for MLTT?
So a variety of different techniques. So we're on all of the table tennis forums, on the table tennis groups, and the table tennis emails. We're in contact with USA Table Tennis, the International Table Tennis Federation. But the best recruiting technique, bar none, is word of mouth. So in the first year, we had this athlete, David Macbeth from England, and he had such a great time playing in America in this league. He told his buddy Liam Pitchford, who is number 20 in the world, who was at the Olympics, he's like, you got to come play in America. And sure enough, he joined the draft. So as more and more people realize how great our format it is, how great it is playing in America, we get them P1 visas so they can live here during the season. So more and more athletes want to play in our league for a variety of reasons, but best reason, word of mouth, how great it is.
Hey, Jacob, I'm going to go erudite for a minute. If I'm Macbeth and there's a line call, is it not out damn ball out? Nothing, Macbeth. Nothing. I'm trying to raise.
No, I'm trying to one up you there on. Yeah.
Trying to raise the level of discourse here. Flint, let me ask you this.
I was hoping for a Boris Becker. Get it out.
Well, did you ever see the Boris Becker story with Andre Agassi, where Agassi said he knew where Becker was going to serve because he would put his tongue in a certain position? Have you seen that clip? True story. It's fantastic. Jacob, if you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. Yeah. He's
wow.
like, the trick was not to do it too often because then he would have known something was up. Just the key points. So sometimes he had to purposely lose points even though he knew where the serve was coming. If you haven't seen the clip, go look it up. It's great. Flint, you were talking about sort of revenue streams. You mentioned tickets and you mentioned sponsorship. Now, if you look at the traditional sports, media is the number one driver of revenue. Just curious. I mean, you've been on YouTube. You've had a splash on ESPN, as you said. What's the long-term media strategy for widespread distribution?
Yeah, so I think for mature leagues, the revenue stream is media. For emerging leagues, generally the way those distribution deals work are barter deals, where you get airtime and then you can sell the commercials to your sponsorship partners. I think in the next couple of years, it'll likely be mostly that. So that's why I say that's where the revenue is coming from. But you look at what these distribution partners are starved for live sports content, and the Olympics has certainly accelerated things for us. We're having conversations with lots of people who want our content. Whether they're going to pay us billions year one seems unlikely, right? So we're happy just to continue to get the content out there, and we think over time as we grow our fan base, we'll get one of those big media deals as well. Just not going to happen in year 2 or year 3 probably.
I saw today a headline that the DNC is picking 4 influencers to appear at the convention. I'm curious, who are the top influencers, and this can be celebrity, can be athletes, who are totally into table tennis that you can lean on to help spread the word? I'm not really sure who they are.
Yeah, so Adam Bobrow is very popular. He has over 1 million followers on YouTube. He was one of our personalities at all of our events last year. Frankly, our problem is not getting to the table tennis community. We don't win if all we do is appeal to the table tennis community. We want that family of 4 to come out for a great time, much like in minor league baseball. You don't have to play fast pitch baseball to enjoy a minor league baseball game. So we need that family of 4, and getting outside of table tennis into other influencers is a bigger focus for us.
Yeah, who can you? I mean, who is that? How do you crack through to the sort of your general fan? I absolutely, you need scale. I mean, I'll never forget what John Skipper said. It's my job to figure out how to monetize eyeballs. You got to get the eyeballs, and you want the widest community possible. Yeah, so obviously you want to be outside your core fan. I'm curious who helps you do. I mean, I'm telling you, Steph Curry's that's gold right there. You get that moment, that's gold. Who else do you know about?
That's the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why Manu Ginobili is an owner of the team, right? That helps us raise awareness as we get more and more. Whether it's celebrity endorsements, so whether it's Serena Williams who loves table tennis, Justin Bieber who loves table tennis, Kevin Durant who loves table tennis.
These folks all own.
Involved,
they all have ownership stakes in other sports. I like the way I see where this is going.
Yes.
Give me put your competitive hat on for a second. Tell me why table tennis is the racket sport of the future and pickleball isn't.
I've played pickleball. I find it fun to play. I was mediocre immediately, and it's easy for people to learn. And I think it's a great participatory sport, and we are not rooting against them at all. I don't find pickleball very watchable the way it is today. At the highest levels, they're dinking back and forth at the net, and I'm sure that has some appeal. And they have been at it for much longer than we have, and they've grown in popularity. But we don't win if pickleball loses, and we don't lose if pickleball wins. So we're not up against pickleball. We're up against lots of other attention-grabbing things. So
Absolutely.
tennis is obviously super exciting. Padel is interesting, but not well understood by the American population. I think we win because it is amazing to watch. Our fan engagement scores are off the charts, and I think people recognize when they see it. It's like, wow, I never could imagine that. So our repeat visitors to matches is unbelievable. People buy 3-day passes for the weekends so they can watch every single match that we put on.
I know Forrest Gump was good at table tennis. I'm like, Tom Hanks, is he a real fan too? Do we know if Tom Hanks is into?
Scott's trying to get a finder for you over here. That's his whole. That's his whole raison d'etre.
As your chief marketing officer, Jordan Schlachter, and we've known each other for a very long time, and like the way things pop into my head, I just throw an idea. I always try to figure out if I was in your shoes, what would I be doing? So I'm trying to figure out who makes sense. Who can I reach out to? How can I integrate somebody who has eyeballs already and bring them or help bring new people to our community? That's what I'm trying to think of. So that's just how my brain works. That's why I'm into the whole celebrity, the casual fan, non-core. How do you expand far beyond where you already are? That's obsessing right now. I'm absolutely obsessive about it.
And I'll tell you, my obsession in that regard is always trying to create. Oh, please go ahead. Go, Flint. Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. The real answer to that question is hire great people who know how to do that. You mentioned Jordan Schlachter, formerly of the chief business officer of the XFL, worked for the NBA Players Union, worked for the U.S. Olympic Committee. He had his choice of jobs, and he joined us about 2 months ago as our chief business officer, because after he did his research, he's like, oh my goodness, this is going to be enormous. So he knows far more about growing sports than I did, and I'm learning fast. But being able to bring on great talent to the league to help me figure it out, that's the key to success.
What did Bezos say? If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Was that Bezos?
Sounds.
I'll give him credit. Sounds like something he might have said anyway, Jake.
There's another line I like. Bill Gates said, people often overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Mm-hmm. So we're very happy with what we did in a year, but give us 3, 4, 5, give us a decade. You're going to be surprised how big we're going to make Major League Table Tennis in America.
I know when I watch, I'm astounded at just the pace. The delta between the casual game and the best is among the biggest of in any sport anywhere. Like I can watch kids 15-year-old baseball and then watch Major League Baseball. I understand they're much better. They throw. I got it. But just the obvious visible delta between people playing casually in the basement and what those folks do at the highest level, they are not the same game as far as I'm concerned. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Flint, it's been fantastic. We're running a little low on time. I wanted to ask a little about the schedule process. We can kind of spin forward, so to speak. My one spin pun of the day. You guys started the season in Portland. You go to Raleigh. I'm curious, as you're putting this schedule together, what kind of research are you doing? And, with the markets you want to play in, are they ones where table tennis already has an existing community? Are there ones where you see the potential for an existing community? What goes into the schedule process? And then walk us through what has you excited about where you're headed this season.
Yeah, so we have 8 teams in 8 city-based locations. So it could be the Carolina Gold Rush, the Portland Paddlers, the Princeton Revolution. So we picked those cities based on a few variables. One, do they have already a thriving table tennis culture? And there are roughly 200 clubs, full-time clubs throughout America. I own 2 of them. So there are the Bay Area, obviously, big area for table tennis. But it also has to be a populous area. So we experimented a little in season 1. And based on where we're at, we're not going to succeed in cities that don't have both a highly populous, a big population, and a thriving table tennis culture. So that's how we've picked our cities. And over the course of season 1, we went from less than 100 at our first match to 1,000 at our finals. and we showed tremendous progress as we learned how to draw a crowd as well.
Now, Flynn, I used to live in Princeton. Now I'm going back many, many years. I know you've got a club there. Is Winbury still there? Is that the sort of the post-match place of food and drink?
Right on Palmer Square. I've been there many times.
Okay, and I like to triangulate on this show, Jacob. I know you're
Okay.
a listener. Palmer
Yeah.
Square. There's Palmer Square Equity. That's Angie Long and Chris Long, who were Princeton alum, who now own the Kansas City Current. So I'm trying to bring it all together. Everything goes back to Palmer Square. Perfect. All right, Flynn. Thanks so much for taking the time, Flynn. I mean, this is real fun, and I'm motivated now. I want to see if I get a table in the office.
Ooh, now we're talking.
You don't even come to the office. You're in Boston, Jacob.
Well, you add a table tennis table.
You guys need to get yourselves to a match. So we'll be in Westchester in December. I'd love to have you as my guest, Scott, and would be happy to have you play against one of the pros to see if you think you're good.
True story, Flint. Listeners know this, but John Patrikoff, when he ran NYCFC, he knew I played soccer at a pretty high level back in the day, and he invited me to spend a day training with the team, along with some other media. I said, this is a great idea. My wife said, terrible idea. Like, you're out of shape. Don't do this. I'm going to do it. They have a 15-station plyometric warm-up. I'm not even finished with warm-up, Flint, and I'm exhausted. I'm sweating. My legs are tired. I'm like, uh-oh. And now I need to go play. And keep in mind now, I've got Patrick Vieira, David Villa. I need to perform, right? So I'm doing the drill, and Vieira says something like, oh, we got a player here. And it makes me feel good. And then, of course, I go to cut really hard, and I pop my calf. Down I go. Like, the last thing I need, I've had enough embarrassment in my old age. The last thing I need is a table tennis injury. Forget it. I appreciate it, but I am retired from anything that requires physical exertion because I know I'm just going to hurt myself.
All right. Well, you still need to come out to a match and see what live action looks like.
You got it.
Yeah, we'll be there. Fantastic. Flint, thank you so much for joining us. Folks who are interested to learn more, I think MLTT.com is probably the easiest place for them to find the schedule and tickets and all that. Is that right?
Yeah, so our website is www.mltt.com. We're on all the social media channels, obviously, but you can get tickets, you can find the schedule and information about our league on our website.
Excellent. Fantastic. And you can find Scott on X, even though Evan still calls it Twitter. He's at Sosnick. I'm Jacob Feldman. You can find me at Jacob Feldman 4. The show is produced by Aaron Greenewald. Thanks so much to Aaron. Matt Palacio, who runs Sportico's social media channels, would like you to know that you can follow the show at Sporticast. Again, it's X, not Twitter anymore. And that's the hub of the Sportico Media Network.
Look at Jacob. Tough closing there, buddy. I love it. Look at you taking up all of Eben's usual duties. All right, Flint,
I got
thanks
it.
so much.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Flint, hang on just a minute.